So we are ready to rock and roll today. We are going to talk about building master detail apps in Blazor. We're still in a little bit of flux on the Blazor. We haven't RTM'd it yet. It's the official date. And I know there's folks on the call that call me out on this. I think last week someone said, I say it's in a couple weeks, every couple weeks, but April 22nd is our official release date to take the beta preview tag off of Blazor code generation, which is very exciting. So we're pretty pumped about that. And, you know, what that means is that all the controls that we had in Angular for the last over a year now will all be there for Blazor. Right now, it's like 60% of the controls. And just as a reminder, the way that we're doing this is if I go to GitHub, and you guys can see my screen, and we go to Ignite UI, whoops, 123// Ignite UI. In the Ignite UI repo, we've got Ignite UI web components. And this is where you can follow along on our path to take everything in Angular, refactor it to pure web components, zero dependency web components. And then we take those and we create React library and Blazor control. So we have a native .NET API around the web component, and it works well, it's slick, whatever. So keep an eye on the roadmap.md here, and you'll see like where everything is at, all the stuff that we've already shipped, etc. And if you do have any issues, feel free to post issues here as well with any of the web components. And then on the website itself, you'll be able to grab, you know, the download. My dog is trying to escape here. Sorry about that. You'll be able to download the controls and see what's new and what's there, and we'll have blogs and all this other stuff. So yeah, all of this will be available not only in GitHub, but on the website. April 22nd is our big date. So on the chat line today, if you have questions, go ahead and post them into the chat. We have the Q&A box. So we already have some stuff. You know, our shopping cart's an example of master detail. Master detail, Bill, what we're thinking about is data. You know, it's data bound. Like I have a grid of customers and I want to see that customer's order. So if you translate that into a shopping cart, that's perfect. Then the answer is yes. And I'm going to show you the support we have today and then some manual code. But at the end of the day, you'll get a good feeling of what you can achieve with that. So the hosts today is myself, Jason, as usual. I don't think George is on the line. He might be. Brian Lagunas is. Ravco's on the line as well. So they will be in the chats, in the Q&As, etc. Blazor Doc Manager will ship in probably the mid-May timeframe. We've got a couple things left to do there, but right now you can use it as a web component, as a React component, as an Angular component. So it's been available. It's been out for quite a while. Housekeeping, recording and slides will be available after the webinar today. And essentially, we're not going to spend any real time on slides. Most folks know the product really well. If you don't, go to Infragistics YouTube site. We've got playlists up there, and you can get like the beginner videos on what is App Builder and all that good stuff. Since we only have 30 minutes, I want to get right to it because I want to show you some new stuff that we have. So there's two things that you should be aware of. I mentioned this last week in one of our YouTube live sessions, but if you're an Infragistics customer and you go to my account and you log in, so I'm going to go ahead and log into my account using my Microsoft ID. So I'll log in. What I'm going to be using today is the Electron version of App Builder. So you've got your customer portal, go to downloads, and we made a few really nice improvements here. So if I go to downloads, the first thing that comes up is the latest volume release. And then you'll see that we've got App Builder, the desktop version for Mac and the desktop version for Windows. So I, down here in my taskbar, have the App Builder logo. That's the desktop app for Windows. It's essentially Electron. It wraps up the website, but it's really slick and it works really well. And that is a good way to use the product. Then you don't accidentally close windows and things like that. So now if I jump into App Builder here, I'll type in my password. Whoops. And we will not show this again. Click yes. Now we're in into the App Builder, and you can see it's got its own top menu bar. It's not in my browser. From the browser perspective, if you want to use the browser, that's fine. Just go to infragistics.com, go to App Builder here, and then just click sign in, and then it'll take you to the same experience just on the web. So it's really up to you what you want to use. So very exciting, something we just released this morning. And this is why I wanted to show you this before we get started. I'm going to click new app. We just shipped all of these new app templates, and we also shipped new screen templates. So for example, previously we basically had 4 templates. Now we've bumped this up to 12 templates, which gives you more flexibility in the type of screen UI that you want to build out, which is really, really slick. Our goal is to remove all of this hand coding from you. We still have our sample apps, so you can still go and open up our sample apps, but the templates is really where you get some of this real productivity. So if I go to this template here, my header and nav content, what I've got is a few views, and it looks very similar to what it was before, but you'll notice on view 2, it says pick a layout. Now, when I click that, I've got this thing shows up, and I can then pick any type of layout that I want for this UX. Now, why is this important? This is the web. This isn't the absolute positioning world of Windows Forms or, you know, whatever. You need a layout so things resize correctly. And the hardest thing that we've seen is that people can't do layout on the web. I mean, and I'm not talking just developers. I'm talking like, you know, web people can't do layout on the web. It's hard. Well, we're removing all that for you. So for example, if I click this guy here, side-by-side layout, and I hit Control E, and I'm going to add a grid into this guy. So you'll notice that the grid has a fixed height and width. These are also some other things that we're working on, but I'm just going to move this to unset. I'm going to move this to unset. And for this responsive area, it's grow shrink. Now the grid I want to grow. So now the grid is automatically in this space, right? And now if I Control C, and I'm going to paste this other grid right here, and then I go to preview, I've got a grid that is responsive with my page. Whoops. And scroll bars come up when they should. Everything works perfectly. And you can see here that, you know, I've got my menu fly out as well. But our goal is to remove all of this layout muck from you. So we lay these things out. You don't have to worry about it. And this really, really helps when you do things like master detail stuff. So let me click edit again. I'm going to go back to my project. It seems like Holy Grail is pretty popular here. Let's go ahead and use the Holy Grail template. We'll preview this guy. And yeah, that's the real name in real life. This is a web template. It has all kinds of resizing and layout built in. And this is maybe what your website might look like, or some cool thing where you got fixed right, fixed left, etc. Hey, we're taking all the complexity out. You just go ahead and add your child screens and we'll take care of the rest. So let's now get into a little master detail. I'm going to do a new app, blank screen. In this blank screen, I'm going to pick a layout. I am going to do the prototypical master detail layout, which is, let's see, this guy here. So I want a side pane and I want split content. So I'm going to select him and I'm going to click done. And I'm basically going to do what I just did. I'm going to hit Control E. I'm going to add a grid here. Now this grid is going to be my customers list. So I'm going to say height is that, and I'm going to make this guy grow. So he's in there. Now, if you were here last week, we did the, or 2 weeks ago, we talked about our Swagger support. Just as a quick reminder, let me go here and let me type in Northwind Cloud. And let me just heat this guy up because it's on Azure. It takes a second sometimes for it to warm up. Looks like I've got some good data there. But if you do have a web API, well, I'm going to say this. If you don't have a web API, you will, because that's how you build apps on the web. So you're communicating between your client and your server through API calls. And the nice thing about .NET 6 is they include with ASP.NET Core the Swagger support built in. So I've created this web API. It's up in Azure. It's using SQL Azure. And if I want to add a new Swagger definition, I can just click here. I can click add a URL. I'm going to paste this guy in. I'll click done. Let's configure some endpoints. Let's say I want to do customers. And you can see here that I'm getting my customer stuff back when I click on it. The other thing I added last week was some API with parameters. So let's do alfkey, and we'll send alfkey down the pipe. And you can see here, I'm getting my orders by customer. That's as easy as it is to start to generate real data that's obviously updating. It's SQL Server, it's real life. And now I just select this, I click done, and I can use this in my application. I've already got my Northwind open API here. And if I configure the endpoints, you can see basically got all the stuff that is in my database. And that's what I'm going to use to bind this data. So I'm going to delete this guy here. And on this particular grid, I want to go here. I want to use the customers table. So that's customers. And then I'm going to do Control E again. I'll select a grid. I'm going to do the same thing. He's going to be unset and unset, and I'm going to tell him to grow. Now this, I click customers, I want orders to show up. So I need a parameterized query to customer orders. So I'm going to pass this API in. And the nice thing is what we've already done is if we click preview is we've got the 2 grids created, and then we've already got the API call along with passing the parameter in. The only thing we don't do yet, but we will eventually, maybe in the summertime, is wire this up to dynamically update. So right now, that's the code we need to write ourselves where it will dynamically update. And it's a few lines of code. You're going to see how easy it is. So it's super simple, but we've done all this already. So let's do that guy here. I'm going to copy this grid and I'm going to paste it here. And I am going to use this as a placeholder. So I'm going to use customer order history, which is also passing a parameter. But what I'm going to do when we get to the code is replace this with a chart. Because we don't have charts in the toolbox yet, we're doing that as we speak. Charts will be here very soon. It kind of ties everything together. But the beautiful thing is, here's my application. I've got all this data built in, all the data binding, all the column definitions, everything's ready to go. All my API calls are there. Let's click edit. I'm going to change the name of this. We're going to call this webinar Blazor demo, like so. And I am going to download the zip. And I'm going to call this or just save it here to my downloads folder. I have a ton of downloads in my downloads folder because I've tested this 100 times. And I've been experimenting with all these new features. So I've got a lot of stuff in there. So let me go to downloads, right click, extract all, webinar Blazor demo. So this is what we have. I'm going to double click my C# project. It's opening up over here. Let me slide it over. There we go. So what is this doing? This is going to reinstall our NuGet packages. So here, if I go to dependencies, we've got Ignite UI for Blazor. We've got the .NET Core stuff. And now if I click run, this will build it and run our application. Whoops, it's over here. Slide this guy over. So there we go. You can see I've got my customers table. I've got this guy here and I've got this guy here. Let's close this out and let's go to our pages, to our master view. And this is where we're going to add some capabilities here. So let me just make this so you can see it a little bit. There's a couple things we need to do to make this work. And again, these are things that we're going to, they'll be automatic, you know, sooner than later, where you won't have to really modify any code to do a straight up master detail, but right now you do. So grid selection mode, what we want is when you select the grid, and the nice thing is we've got IntelliSense here. You've got multi-cell, multi-row, range select, single cell. We want to do a single row select. And then the other thing is when the selected items changed, we want to have an event that fires every time we click something in this row. And we're just going to say selected items changed, and that'll be the name of our event. The other thing that we really don't need here is all of these extra fields. So I'm going to delete, I'm going to leave company name, and I'm going to leave this guy here like that. So we've got company name and contact name. And then here we've got, you can see our data sources are set up already. So my data source is Northwind API customers, Northwind API customer orders. And this guy is Northwind API customer order history, customer ID. This is all auto-generated from the app. I'm not going to change anything more just yet. What I want to do is go down here and you can see that I've got my grids. I've got my grids responding to the parameterized ALFKey variable that is set up when the application actually loads. So this is what's happening on load. So we're always going to get ALFKey right off the bat. What I want to do is I want to update this. So I'm going to copy in my selected items changed event that I already have done and ready to rock and roll. So we're going to paste this guy in. And what you can see here is that when we do select items changed, we are actually going to make sure that something was selected. And then once something is selected, we are going to tell it to tell the data source to use this customer ID. And then I'm going to pass it to the parameterized query. So this is the exact same line of code is this. So this Northwind API customer order, or no, it's actually this. These two are the same exact lines of code. So it's the same HTTP get from JSON, Northwind API. What do I want to get? I want to go get this piece of information from my Swagger ID, and that's all I need. So now I'll save this guy. We'll save him the solution file. We'll overwrite, save. We'll run this, and like magic, we've got our customers. And then when I click this guy, I've got my ID. Now there's a little bit of thing here because I think I messed up when I set my height, but anyway, you get the point. I'm kind of like scrolling into this bottom area that I shouldn't be. But I'll kind of show you how we can fix that as well. Makes it kind of easy. But every time I click a guy here, it perfectly shows up here. A couple other things of note in the app builder right now for Blazor, it handles dates a little bit differently than Angular. So you'll see that the JSON is actually returning the fully correct qualified date from the database, which is the way it's actually supposed to be. What I want to do is I want to format that date. So there's a couple things that you should be aware of. When you go to the data folder and you look at the model for what we're actually returning, you'll see what the fields are. So we've got strings here. Here I've got double strings, and then I've got required date, ship date, order date. Well, I actually want these to all be date times. So I'm going to copy these guys here. And now these are all going to be date times. We will fix this in the app builder once we do a little bit more of the tweaking on the data formats coming in from the Swagger definition. but this is how you would deal with it now. So I've got my date time there. So now let me save that guy. Let's go back to our page here. And then you actually change the column type in the column definition to a date time. So here I've got order date. So let me hit enter a few times, and I'm going to paste in this that I just grabbed from my my cheat sheet in my other monitor. But you can see here I've got an IGB date time column. Right here is an IGB text column. So the field here says order date, and it just is saying, hey, align the field to the right and then give me a short date time format. So I can go ahead and delete this, and I can paste this 2 more times because I want to fix my other 2 columns. So here I've got required date and I've got ship date. So I'm going to change this guy to required date, and we'll change this to required. And I'm going to change this to shipped. And I'm going to change this to shipped. Like so. Let me delete these 2 columns. They're unnecessary now. And now when we run this guy, you'll see that my date columns are properly formatted and they look better. So these are just little tips and tricks on using Web API Swagger stuff with your data. Now, if you remember, this grid here is kind of just like a dummy grid, but the data is absolutely correct. It's what I need to render what I want. So I'm going to close this out, and I am going to go back to this grid. So this is my IGB data grid here. You'll notice that the data is already being retrieved. I've got the data coming in. So I am going to comment this out, and let's comment this guy out here, and I'm done. And what I'm going to do is I am going to, because we only have a few minutes left, I'm going to grab a data chart. And this data chart I have set up already. This data chart's super easy to set up. And you'll see here what I'm talking about. So does this have the right data source? Well, actually, let me just copy it from, sorry, my copy paste thing didn't quite copy paste like I had hoped. I think this is it right here. So let me copy this guy over. I'm going to paste him in, but here's the point. The point is this, is that the IGB category chart is a subset of our big data chart. And this is what we really want you to use. So when you start looking at, oh, I need to use a chart from Infragistics, the category chart does a lot of magic in terms of determining what the chart should look like when you bind the data. So I'm going to copy the data source here, and I'm going to paste this guy in like so. And I am actually, let me get rid of this for now. I'm actually telling it to use a spline area chart. You don't need to tell it to use any chart type. I'm actually doing that just to make the chart look cool. A couple other things that I'm doing here is I'm saying, is transition enabled? Yes, it's enabled. I'm actually telling it to do a trend line. So if you want to add trend lines here, all of this ends up in your IntelliSense, super easy. So you can do any type of trend line that you want. So here we'll do a weighted average trend line. You can tell it what color to do the trend line. I'm actually spacing out the plot area a little bit, and I've got my my customer orders here. So you can see that my chart title says customer orders, and I had another data bound field in there that I did, but I removed it because I don't know if we're actually going to get to that today. But what we are going to get to here is binding this on the same event. So let me add a few lines here. So we're already loading this on the load, and then on the event of changing my customers, we're actually going and getting the orders. Now, if I paste this in like so, I guess I messed up my Northwind open API. I don't know why my thing's spelled wrong here. Let's copy this. Really sorry about this. and make sure that works there. And then I've got here customer order history, customer order ID, and I want to make sure, let's copy this guy and make sure he's set. So what we're going to do is we will say var, and we want this. Oh, it's the same thing already in there. So we're good to go. All right. So let's just run this guy. And now what's going to happen is our chart will just magically appear, and it will change every time we click a row in the grid. So now we've got the chart beautifully showing up. Now, as I click each row, not only does my data change, but my chart changes as well. So with a few clicks and settings and most of the code written by the app builder, we've done a few manual lines of code, you end up with this nice master detail. Now let's go ahead and fix this guy here. So I'm going to go back to this, and I'm going to go back to the app builder. And for some reason here, my height, I'm just going to tell this to be 100%, and I'm going to tell it to stay like that. Now let me go to its underlying container, and that should be like 50%. Let's make sure this works in the preview, because it should work. Something's a little wonky there. It could be due to our Blazor beta. Let me go to the container here, and I'm going to set its height, because I want its height to be 50% of the screen, and I want this guy to be 50%, like so. And I'm not sure why, but let's go to preview again. But here's my point. If this is right or wrong, I really don't know yet, but we're generating the CSS here for you. So without me knowing, like, that is actually, I think, group 2. And you can see here, I changed it to height equals 50%. On group 1, I've got flex grow equals 1. I can copy this manually and then go to the CSS that I already have and then paste it in and then see the result. So you don't have to regenerate the code. You can move back and forth between the code and actually what you're doing. And yeah, I screwed it up. But anyway, my mistake, I messed something up there. But I think you get the point on the master detail side. So let's close this out. Let's just go look at this real quick again. To do this, you set grid selection mode equals a single row. You set your selection items changed event just like you would in any other code. And then you need to add this event and then update whatever variables you're passing to your API call. So this is the code that we wrote, and then everything else is what the app builder generated for you. So to get started, what I would do, since we actually just pushed all this stuff today, I would go try this out. Like, I would go and I would do a new project. I would start mucking around with these different layouts because they're all awesome. Just use the template, click preview, sync the code to GitHub, download the code, start adding your own controls, use your own web API, because this will absolutely accelerate what you're doing in terms of screen layout. And I have a poll here, actually. Let me kick off the poll, because one of the things that we want to know is, where would you like us to spend more time? And we're asking this in the in this poll, and I can see everyone's here trying to help me live code. Yeah. So let's go ahead and ask a few questions here, or answer a few questions. Jessica, you've got a lot of questions here. Sounds like, so keep in mind, this is a SaaS app. So it's a cloud-based app. You don't connect to SQL Server through the cloud. You connect to SQL Server through a web API through the cloud. So, that's just standard stuff. Let's see, because I get all these things like, oh, we want SQL Server support. Well, we do have SQL. In fact, we have any server support. If you want to use Postgres, Oracle, anything that has a JSON return URL, local JSON, or a Swagger definition, you can bind that data today. It's all there. It actually works perfectly. Fabian, post the link to the repo. Which repo? Did we get that answer? Okay, web components, you got it. You can use this table for reference. Yep. Yeah, we got Holy Grail works great, and it works great in Blazor. So Blair, thanks for highlighting that. Cool stuff. Swagger allows you, so the auto generate class from the API, will it only generate my API? So I mean, basically the if I go to this demo here, Visual Studio, and I think, let's see if it'll come up in this search. Here we go. All you're doing here is you're just exposing APIs. So like, you're just telling it what you want to show up. It could be anything. So like, this is using an entity framework model. It could be some custom code that you're just returning a single value from a Salesforce backend. It doesn't matter. All this is doing is giving you the ability to expose URLs. That's what this is doing. So this is entity framework core. It doesn't matter where the data is coming from. All you're doing is exposing a URL and returning something. So, and in this case, I'm returning this, and this is built in, right? This little UI is built in. I don't have to do anything, because right here it says use Swagger UI, and builder.services, add Swagger Gen, add endpoints API Explorer. So this is all automatic with .NET 6 and the .NET Core Web API app. You don't have to do anything for this. What you would do is you would not do what I did here, which was basically just use the entity framework models to return data. You could have whatever the heck you want in these method calls, and that's what you're exposing through some URL. 100% up to you. Project. I was most disappointed the line in the documentation. Project started with Angular CLI. Okay, that's not necessarily true. In fact, Brandon, I don't know why, but here, if I go here and I'll do, let me just open up Visual Studio Code. So file, well, I'll just do a new terminal. All right. So here, go here, and I'm going to do ng new, and ng new is going to ask me what the name of this project is, and I'm going to add routing, and I'm just going to take the default. So now I'm creating my application. All you need to do once this is done is do npm install Ignite UI for Angular, right? At that point, it doesn't matter what you do. If you do IG and you're using our application, you still use ng serve, you still use whatever you need. So Drafco saying the build command will install the npm packages. This API returns JSON. Right, so as in, oh, I was reading the wrong one. Full version required. Yeah, so I actually just did a video on this. If you go to our YouTube channel, I did a video showing this whole thing. But what was this thing called? Shoot, ng test or something. Test app. So now what you would do, I'm going to cd to test app. And now from here, whoops. If I do npm install Ignite UI Angular, now I'm just going to install Angular to this. And now everything builds. Now I can use Angular schematics. So what I would recommend that you do is on this page here, if I go to Angular samples and I go to, where is it at? How to, no, where is it at? Oh, there it is. It's the very first thing. Angular schematics, the complete guide. So if you go to here, we have a list. And the list tells you all of the different templates that we ship. So, oh, there it is, templates. So these are all the schematics. So you can do ngg and add a new component, or you can do ig add with the infragistic CLI. So if I grab this guy here, this is actually going to add a new grid to this app, and it'll do all the work for me. Oh, an error occurred. Maybe I didn't install the Angular schematics first, which I do need to do to this project. But that's kind of the point. And like I said, just go to our YouTube channel. I literally just did a video on all of this stuff. So, and we have a new playlist actually. So if we go to youtube.com and we open up our videos, content. So Angular grid tutorial. Let me copy this, or let me just open this guy up. In this video, you're going to learn how. So this is the one you want to watch. I'll copy this into the thing here. And I cover the IG CLI and the NG CLI, I'm pretty sure. But you definitely, you know, takes a minute to learn this stuff. It's not exactly, especially if you're new. But the IG CLI is really slick because it just does all this stuff for you, but you can still use the Angular commands. All right. So I think we answered a lot of these here, as long as the API returns JSON. The build command. All right. So Dylan, I think we answered your question. Yep. Regardless of it could be Java, doesn't matter. And that's just the web, right? It's not anything unique to us. It's just the web. Yes. So Anton, yeah, you can, we have grid persistence on all the grids. I almost ditched IG because I would spend time on a. Now, the best thing to do, I don't know why you had so many problems, Brandon. It's kind of weird that I don't get it. But honestly, the easiest thing to do is ask us. So there's lots of ways to ask us. Very specifically, don't wait for webinars. We have a Discord channel. You could post an issue on GitHub immediately. So here, if I go to my GitHub Ignite UI, so like, do not wait, go here, Ignite UI for Angular, issues, post an issue, and it'll get answered like that day. So yeah, try this stuff out. And then Discord's the same thing. Let me see. I didn't install it again because I just reimaged my machine, but we have a Discord channel. Apple reads the API response to auto-generate the code and wasn't no, has nothing to do with Swagger. So a great way to do this is go to our excel2json.io site, and you can just I usually show this in every webinar. Today I didn't because we've shown it so many times, but let's say, for example, Let me go to my desktop and see if I have an Excel spreadsheet laying around here that we can use. Is this customers? Yep, cool. So this is the customers table. So I have a customers Excel file. I'm just going to drag and drop this in. And what this is going to do is create a JSON file. And it's all very generic. I'm going to get this link and I'm going to go back to my app builder and I'll go here. I'll go to data plus new REST API. I'll just leave all this stuff here. I'm just going to add a generic JSON URL. Done. Select data. What do I want? I want table 1. Okay, this is a bug, Zdravko. The right-hand side should be showing us the fields. Let me go back here. Select data. I'll just do done. Let's edit this. Select data fields, table 1. All right. So yeah, this is a bug. Okay, so we got to fix that. But it would be the same thing that I just showed you with the web API. It just lists the fields. You click go. And in fact, even here, if I delete this and I'll just do I'll do a combo box because everyone is getting a lot of grid here. So the combo box, you can see here, I've got an OData feed. So this OData feed is coming from odata.org and it's the products table. So here I could set my data source to OData products and it'll bind to the, so here we can do description, or no, display should be description, value key would be ID. So this is all just, anything, OData, JSON, a web API, it doesn't matter. We're going to continue to add more capabilities there, but it would be best if we get your feedback, on what you would like to see. So like, there's no way we can do SQL Server because it's on-prem. But if you have SQL Server in the cloud, would you really be doing a direct connect to SQL Server in your web app? I don't know, maybe. But it's so easy to create these web APIs with Entity Framework. All right, so this was great. I think we've answered every question. I'll give you guys a few things here on the poll. Most people don't work with a design team. 2 out of 3 of you don't work with a design team. Which one of these things slow you down the most in web app building? Working with HTML and CSS is the biggest thing. How much time do you spend on this task? Anywhere from 20 to 30% to 40 to 50%, which we want to take all that away from you so you're focused on code. Would you like to see more app builder? What would you like to see more in app builder? Full sample apps, screen layouts, but it looks like full sample apps, which is pretty cool. We got some plans there to do a whole bunch more. So we're going to work on that. Are you building web APIs today? 70% say yes, 30% say no. Would you be interested in giving more direct feedback? 38% yes. And we're talking like 20 minutes a month, like nothing big. But for example, like if, let's say I have like 25 ideas for sample apps, can you guys like say, hey, here's 5 that would actually be useful? Or, oh, we just released these 12 screen layouts. We have these other 15 that we were thinking of. What 3 should we do right now? Like those are the types of things we want to know. We also want to get your feedback on code generation. And of course, it's all opt-in. You don't have to answer anything, but we just want to have more interaction with everyone. All right. So excellent, everyone. Thank you so much today. I really appreciate your time. Thank you, George, Zdravko, Pablo, everyone online answering questions. And I appreciate everyone's time today. Dylan, if you want to just shoot us an email or jump something up on Discord, we will get this thing going right away. And anyone else got questions, jump on Discord, and we really want to have these interactions with you. You'll get a follow-up email with us, and in that email, we'll include the Discord link as well as other important links. So thank you, everyone, and have a great day.